We are live with Dan Thiessen and Nicholas Alexander Karadza.
Oh, I didn't know that was your middle name.
Oh, yeah, man. That's the name of royalty. It just sounds,
you know. You always say that, but I'm not sure it is.
Oh, it is.
It sounds.
I've decided it is, so that's the way it works.
That's how royalty works.
We're talking
kind
about,
of, yeah. It kind of does work like that.
You just claim it. It's on.
I had my triglycerides. Dr. Cowan gave me my latest blood work, and the triglycerides, he said, were really, really good. Like
amazing.
And he also attributed that to lifting weight. And I don't know what the connection was. There was something, it was triglycerides. My good HDL, good cholesterol is really good. The one that you're supposed to watch, I think it's the LDL, I forget, was a little bit, it wasn't high, but it was a little bit, it wasn't like in the best state. So he's like, hey, I think he wanted me to take some turmeric and some olive oil. A couple tablespoons of olive oil every day and some turmeric. And he's like, in a few weeks, we should have that right into the range I want it. Yeah. The HDL, he said he liked because it's hard to get good cholesterol unless you're doing the right things or eating the right way for longer periods of time. You can't just like pop a pill for the good cholesterol. Does that, I don't know if you track that stuff.
I don't really track it for myself because it's always good. I'm young enough.
Yeah.
I eat healthy all the time. So
young guy.
My
how old are you right now?
I'm not that young, I guess. But I turned 30.
You changed your tune all
That's why I'm asking. Hey, that's why I'm asking.
I'm just younger than you guys. But I turned 37 next week, actually. So I'm actually officially, a master athlete. So I put you in some type of old state, I guess.
But you don't track that stuff because you just know that you are eating well.
I've eaten well since I was like 17 years old.
For boxing, right? So you always have to watch your weight.
Got it.
So I've had I had my first sports nutritionist. I was like 17. My parents hired this guy and there wasn't many of them at the time, right? Like it wasn't something that most people did unless you were playing professional sports, you would find those guys. But as a 17-year-old who was just getting into doing like no-gi grappling and boxing and cutting weight, there wasn't many people who were working with a sports nutritionist. And then
at 17, Tom could eat a lot of cereal.
Yeah.
So you ate a lot of cereal up to, I don't know what age. But
I don't know. I thought it was healthy. Whole grains. There's a person, a fit person on the cereal box.
Yeah.
I think it's like somebody in a swimsuit or like a bikini or
I remember when Vector released
their
cereal and they always had like Olympians on it. Right?
Yeah.
I think Michael Phelps was on it or something. I honestly believe Michael Phelps probably ate a couple boxes of those cereals every day.
Well, think how many calories you burn. He could eat 10 boxes.
And now I understand that you burn that many calories, but I also understand that if you have like 3 boxes, every 2 days of cereal with milk, and nothing against milk, just for me, that combo was not the right.
That's a lot of sugar though, right? If you look at the.
So what is your diet now then?
My diet is I eat 5 times a day. I make sure I get a certain amount of protein, which is about 235 grams of protein a day, which is you need at least 1 gram of protein per day per lean pound of body weight you are. So lean pound of body weight, I'm about 205. So that's like minimum. But when I'm lifting heavy weights, then I need more protein. So I eat about 235 grams of protein, 90 to 100 grams of fat, and between 500 and 600 grams of carbs a day, which is on the really high side of carbs, but I'm doing like 2 workouts and I move around a lot. So I'm kind of burning it off all day.
And the fat, how are you getting that much fat?
Fat is every meal. So for instance, my breakfast has coconut oil in it. So I like to start off the day with coconut oil because it's a different kind of fat. It's an MCT. So that medium chain type of fat is used for energy a lot easier in the body, and it's stored less often as fat and used for energy a lot better. So I work out in the morning really hard, so I use coconut in the morning. And then throughout the day, I get it from the meat I eat, olive oil on my salads. I have nuts. Avocado sometimes. I just track it all. But
back to the coconut oil. How are you taking that in the morning? Tablespoon? Or?
A tablespoon of coconut oil in my protein shake. You don't really taste it. And if you like coconut taste, then get something called coconut manna, which is not just the oil, but also like the pulp of the coconut. And then it has a really coconutty taste. If you're into that, I like it. So
I like coconut oil for mental clarity. Like I still have that brand, that bulletproof brand, that Brain Octane, which is like a concentrated form of
it's the MCT oil.
The MCT oil, but I think they strip out one variant of the triglycerides and only leave the other 1 or 2 or whatever it is. And I think for just my own brain clarity,
pretty good.
When I have that one, it's like
it's good.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So I do that every morning. I eat a lot of carbs though, like and not like people hear carbs and they think like, oh, I eat donuts, but that's
So because how much do you weigh right now?
205 to 210 is where I.
And what % body fat? I feel like I'm interrogating you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I check it regularly. So at 205, I'm just over 5 to 6% on the in-body scan.
So 205 pounds, but only 5 to 6% body fat. And then how much weight are you moving? Like what would be one of the markers around weight to give somebody an idea of?
We'll just talk about your squat.
Oh, so squat, like I don't really max out those things anymore, but I'll move like 405 for reps, 2 to 3 reps, something like that. But it's like now it's about staying strong, but being in good shape, being able to move your body weight well. It's like being that whole kind of package. Like over my life, I've kind of strayed more to one thing than the other. I'd really focus on being really strong, but then you kind of lose out on other things. So
what do you lose out on?
You lose out on like endurance or being really good in longer metcons or metcons where you have to move
because
your body.
To get really strong, you have to add weight.
Yeah, you get a little bit bigger and you're really good at using your type 2 muscle fiber, which is like going to help you lift really heavy, but you start to lose your type 1, which helps you go endurance and longer in the metcons and harder.
And you do really have to get your body fat higher. No?
It helps a lot. Yeah. It's so hard to be like as strong as possible and be super lean at the same time unless you're on like drugs.
So you would have to go to we can talk about that after.
Lots in the CrossFit world on that.
Yeah, I know. I feel like everyone's talking about hormone replacement or no, not hormone, testosterone.
Yeah,
TRT.
Yeah.
And
if you saw that gym I was at when I was on vacation, wow, man, I was literally like I've never
ready
been,
to go.
Well, I've never been like one of the smallest guys. Every day that I was there, I was there's a couple of people that were there that were kind of out of shape and stuff like that, but just from a muscular standpoint, I was like, wow, I've never felt so small in a gym before. Not that I'm a huge guy, but I've never felt like a really skinny dude.
So
either,
in the washroom,
right?
Did you see needles everywhere?
No, but I definitely I didn't go.
Did they have one of those disposal buckets for needles in the washroom?
I think I just wanted to stay out of the washroom altogether.
Probably. Good,
But yeah, it was interesting. I was probably in better shape than most of those guys overall. Because I could move. They can
move a lot of weight, but overall functional fitness, they probably have a little less.
Yeah, but it was I haven't kind of hung out regularly in a gym like that for. I mean, it's been a long time.
What do you think? What's your body
years.
fat percentage right now?
I know it's probably about 12.5. It's higher than I want it to be. So I've been looking at getting it lower, but it's just
what's the range that you like?
I'd like to be about 11. I'm happy.
Okay, that's for
it's
how you look, or that's for you just feel better at 11.
Just overall, I feel better.
Wow, so that 1.5% is really throwing you out.
You know what, Doctor and Cowan said the same thing. He's like, man, you're really splitting hairs.
Yeah,
But for me, I just that's where I want to be.
Yeah, that's your happy spot.
It's better for performance to have a bit more body fat.
I'll never forget when you got me down to 9.8 or 9.
You started to feel it, right?
I really started to feel the difference between 9, whatever that was, and 12, or even 11.5. Like it felt like I could recover better from the workouts. I could perform better. Yeah. Not that my performance is like some Olympic level thing, just for myself. And then at 9, it was just totally different. So I can see, I can see your point.
So for me,
my biggest thing is I don't move throughout the day. Like it was funny because you sent out an email recently, and it was just I never count steps. Like who I know I work out, but then I didn't realize throughout the day how kind of immobile I am. I just so some days obviously it's more, but if the days I'm in the office, man, I don't move at all. Yeah. So I've had to make a conscious effort now to do more, and it goes back to even when we've traveled in Europe when I was younger, even before kids with my wife and I, it was amazing because we would eat whatever the heck we wanted, and we would go to these trips, and because we were walking around different cities all day, we would lose weight. No different than recently when we were in Orlando at the theme parks, Disney and Universal. We were walking around so much that I could eat whatever I wanted, and I came back lighter than I would have. And it's just you lose sight of everyone focuses so much on like going to the gym and working out and what you eat, which are two. I love going to the gym and what you eat's the most important thing.
Yep.
But man, moving throughout the day, and that was something that one of his emails made me actually think about. And now I check that health app on the phone, and I don't have to be fair, I don't actually have my phone on me all the time, so it's not an accurate count.
Yeah.
But and to purposely get like more activity in every day, right?
Yeah, what's changed for me around that is having this dog.
Yeah.
Just a walk
like
because now there's no exceptions.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing a walk every day, which I never would have walked as much as I just
Yeah.
walk
Yeah.
with this dog.
So much like people always talk about, oh, that person has a really good metabolism. So they can eat whatever they want and they never gain weight, that kind of stuff. But it's typically based around, it's called NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So it's all the calories you burn throughout the day that are not to do with your exercise you do. So that's just you're moving and walking, right? So if you sit at a desk all day long and you move like 2,000 steps throughout the day, your metabolism is just going to be low, like you're not burning energy. Where if I'm coaching all day long and I take a walk and then I take the dog out for a walk at night and I average between 17,000 and 20,000 steps throughout every day, my metabolism is just super high. It's just constantly burning energy.
That's a lot, because I was seeing mines at 15,000 on the days when I was at Disney and stuff like that, walking around, which is, you're not purposely walking, but you're constantly moving, right? Yeah. And that's about 15,000. So to do 17 to 20 a day, but now one of the things that I've tried to do, and I got to buy another pair of AirPods or a couple more to leave them everywhere, because then every time I need to take a phone call or something, I can pop those in and just go for a walk and just kind of like
I have them always just at the front door now because I'm going out.
Yeah.
So I just swipe the AirPods
the greatest.
But I need them here. Like I'm
on the move.
I'm gonna have some in my car, and then one at home, one here. That's like the latest thing.
Oh, look at, they're like $400 a set, eh?
It's okay.
No, I'm going to get the Generation 1. They're like $99.
Oh, okay. What do you think? Oh my gosh, how many thousands of spent?
What do you think this is?
The AirPods around the office. Come visit the Rockstar office. Pick up your
I'll probably not even those. I'll get the no-name brand off Amazon for $29. Yeah.
You plug in.
Yeah.
What's the deal with the cold plunge thing that you have in your office? Right now?
So I bought so I started off with like buying one of those troughs that cows like eat out of, and
you started off with a tin can.
Tin can. Yeah. We'd fill it up with water and put as much ice in it as possible, and then we started doing cold plunges. I listened to a couple podcasts. I was interested. Dr. Huberman talks about it, and he's like super smart scientist. And I enjoyed it. It was like mental clarity. There was something about it that like really made me feel good, and it only took like 3 to 5 minutes, so it didn't really take any of my time besides picking up the ice. So I decided that I was
gonna say, picking up the time, you got to get the ice, you got to fill the thing,
so
you got to drain the thing. This looks like
he had like co-op students at the gym.
I had co-op students.
Okay,
do it for me.
Look, I'm
hey,
like,
go
this is a
fill up
massive
the tub.
pain in the ass to do this.
Go buy the ice. And then I was spending like $20 in ice, so I decided to buy one of the ones from the Canadian company that has the tub and the machine hooked up to it that brings the water down and it filters the water so it's not gross like the other one.
So you can leave the water
in you can leave the water in it, and it brings it down to 3 degrees Celsius, and that's a whole different feeling, because we measured what it was with the ice, and it was about 10 to 12 degrees. So 3 degrees, it hits different, and I had to build up to 5 minutes. But there's just so much around that, and I know like there's like the whole what's his name, Wim Hof breathing techniques, and he goes in the Arctic and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of it is just breaking through mental barriers. If we're not talking about the physical side of the benefits, but teaching yourself that it's okay to be uncomfortable, which I think in our society nowadays is so much more important than it used to be, because people used to always be uncomfortable. Like you had to get up and you had to figure out how to eat, like that's not a comfortable situation. So now I feel like everybody's always searching to be in the most comfortable spot financially, physically, you know what I mean? That we've become pretty soft. So this actually teaches you and Huberman talks about this, like breaking through mental barriers. So you get to like the 2-minute mark and you're like, I cannot do this anymore. It's like hurting my hands, it's hurting my feet. And then he's like, that's when you tell yourself you're breaking through a mental barrier. You're going to go for another 30 seconds. And you become that more resilient mentally, where you just helps you in other parts of your life where you're like, you know what, I can be uncomfortable and it's okay to be uncomfortable. And now I'm like actually growing as a human being again, right? Not just searching for the most comfortable way. For me personally, like CrossFit every day is like that. So I don't really have that problem. Like I built up to the 3 degrees at 5 minutes, like pretty quickly. So the mental side of it, it's still there. Like it's not comfortable at all, but I'm used to being uncomfortable. But from the physical side of it is like when you work out, you release dopamine, you feel really good about yourself. That's one of the reasons why we work out, and it helps you with the feeling good mentally and mental clarity. you'll release 3 times more dopamine in a cold plunge than you will through a workout. So like that's like an substantial amount different in how you feel. And that's why I know people joke like, yeah, of course you feel good when you get out because you don't feel like you're going to, drown in the Arctic anymore. But what's really happening is you're releasing all this dopamine and this feel good hormone. And you like, I'm like ready to like get at the day after that. I feel so much better. And that's why I know a lot of people, like I see GSP, he does his cold plunge as soon as he gets up in the morning. It's like you're starting your day with this hit of like, let's go,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I remember some documentary on Tony Robbins. He had a cold plunge pool in his place in Florida and we'd like jump. It was just like a little circle in the ground.
Yeah.
He would just kind of jump right into it and pop out.
Yeah.
Ben Greenfield, I think too. He talks about his, and he goes in his backyard because where does he live, in Colorado or something? I think.
Yeah, I used to know, and I forget now.
It gets really cold. I just know because he's out in the forest someplace, and it actually gets really cold. He doesn't actually have to do much for the water to stay cold, and he goes outside. And if you've hung out with that guy at all, just the little bit that we have, he's definitely.
Oh my God! Nick took us to some mastermind thing outside LA. It was just this little conference of all different kind of business owners, but everybody was into, and everyone was really healthy and pretty fit, I would have to say. Yeah. And Ben Greenfield led morning yoga.
Oh, okay.
But it was like, no, it was the hardest thing I ever. I think it was one of the hardest things I ever did. At one point he said, "All we're going to do now is sit down and get up." And we're going to do that, did he say 100 times or for 5 minutes? He's like, just sit down and get up. Sit down and get up.
Why can't you do this? It's a normal human movement. Go.
And I was already into the CrossFit stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of for bullshit people. Like, what are we doing here? Mm-hmm. Yeah. After, I don't know, a few minutes of sitting down and getting up, I was like, I'm completely exhausted. Yeah. Like I can't do this. And he's just popping up, sitting down, popping up, sitting down. I'm like, what the hell is this?
That kind of stuff is cool to me because what you said, like going into it mentally, you're like, this is a joke.
Yeah, no problem.
And then, you start to realize like, shoot.
We always do that with your programming at Radix. Mike's notorious. So Mike DeZormo's not here to defend himself on this comment, but he's always the person to look at whatever you've programmed. And he'll say, this doesn't really look like, is this really going to be that hard? Like, and I'm like, Mike, we've been coming here for years. It's always hard. Yeah. It's actually a disaster. But some of your workouts are like, programmed for 9 minutes, or yesterday's was a good example. All we did was 3 wall walks, and then we did 30 wall balls, and then we did 12 calories on the ski erg, and we're all and it was just 3 rounds of that. So you're just kind of looking at it, you're like, well, this is kind of like, I guess we'll just smash this out, no problem. Halfway through, I was throwing the wall ball up, and I usually have no problems with wall balls. I can kind of hit the target. And I was throwing it, and I wasn't missing the target. No. I'm like, my shoulders, and this is like, I'm maybe 4 minutes into a workout, and my shoulders are just gone. Yeah. So it's just so deceiving, and it's what I appreciate about those workouts.
Oh, I know. Nick and I had talked about that workout before I did it, and he's like, yeah, this is gonna hurt, and I knew it was gonna hurt. It's like the combination of the 3 things just combined on your shoulders, and I was into the 3rd round, and because
you guys did double unders.
I'm really good with wall balls and double unders, and I was hurting. Like I don't typically drop the wall ball, and I won't like mess up double unders too often, and I was doing both of those.
So we'll get into Radix, and if everyone's coming back now at this point and stuff too. But I'm curious, why are you programming things like that? Because you're trying to hit the shoulders specifically, really hard.
We want to build endurance in overhead position and using the shoulders constantly. So like, if we get to the open this year and we're competing and it's something super shouldery, then we're comfortable. Again, it all comes down to being comfortable when it's a very uncomfortable situation. So the next time I do a workout like that, I know exactly how I'm going to feel, and I'm going to be okay that I'm going to have to feel like that, and I have to go to that spot.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because I feel like that's something I've learned from going to Radix and these kinds of workouts, that like, we're halfway through if you're like totally freaking out mentally, but after having done it 10 times, you're like, okay, I'm freaking out, but I'm totally fine. Yeah. Whereas I think when I first started, I was freaking out, and I was thinking I might die. Yeah. And then you can kind of push through, and how hard to push yourself.
You start to realize like, no, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's just that it's not comfortable. Yeah. Either like my lungs are burning or a certain muscle group's burning really bad.
Yeah. And I think I know that. We don't have to get into this, but I think I know that because twice at your gym, I pushed myself right to the max. So I was like, I kind of know what that feeling is. Like, I know if I can't see 2 feet in front of me anymore.
We should include the picture of Tom after one of those workouts as in the show notes. So
the one time was Fran when I had to do some pull-ups at the end, and it was Dan and Ruben both yelling at me, do it for the kids, do it for your kids. And I couldn't even see see the pull-up bar anymore. And I just jumped in the air trying to grab the pull-up bar and pull myself up. And I now know if I'm at that state, probably I'm maxing out.
Well,
I was at home one day and I got a message for the other one you did with rope climbs. I know
that
we
was
spoke
Glenn.
about this.
I think that was
Glenn.
Is that called Glenn?
And I got a message from Dan saying, I don't know if your brother's going to make it. Or he's like, I think he might, like, I think he's going to hurt himself or something. And I was like, what's happening?
The best part of the end of that workout, first of all, Mike does it, no problem. He actually took a washroom break in the middle of it, finished before me. I don't even know if he sweat.
Mike flew through that workout.
Yeah, and then Nick gave me a tip afterwards. My arms were so spent on the rope climbs. When we had to run the mile afterwards, my arms wouldn't move. They were just flat. And he's like, why didn't you swing your arms and grab your shirt? And I thought that was so smart. I'm like, that would have really helped me. Instead, I was running with my straight arms on the side.
I have to do that. So do you ever do that? I hook my arms to the front of my shirt and then run a little bit.
It's the same way that I run when I have the weighted vest.
Yeah.
I just rest.
You got to.
But at the end of that workout, Tyler, who is the most upbeat, nicest human being on the planet and one of the trainers at Radix, he just happened to come into the gym right as I finished 100 burpees at the end, and I was devastated. And he came, when he comes up to you like, hey, how's it going? And I couldn't even speak. And I never see him get a little bit of a look of slight concern on his face because he's always just so cheerful. He's just like a joyful guy. And he walked away. And then I think 2 weeks later, he's like, dude, I didn't know what was wrong with you. I thought you were gonna die. I just walked away.
For me, it was the 5th rope climb. One of the rope climbs, I'm like, he is in trouble.
Yeah.
He might be falling off.
That's when I was like, I started to count you down between to make sure you were resting.
I just went too fast on the rope. I was too confident because you had trained us, and I was like, I can do this. I can just do 10 rope climbs back to back, no problem. No. And I did them faster than I had ever done in the training, which was just a big mistake.
It's a nasty fall too. What is it? What are you up? 15 feet. So if you're at the top, when you get
a couple times, I slid down pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a couple times I've been up and I've been like, oh man, this is getting a little bit sketchy. I better make sure I finish this one.
Because when your forearms give out, they just give out.
Yeah. You just have to become so efficient with that style of rope climb with using your legs and like hooking in with your legs.
Yeah, that's another thing. I think Mike was looking at me one time we were doing rope climbs. He's like, dude, you're not using your legs anymore. I'm like, I can't. I'm exhausted. I can't lift my legs. I think that's just core strength. I couldn't get my legs.
What you're supposed to do is hang arms straight and then bring your knees up.
And I can do that for the first one.
Yeah. But once
so everything's hard. Once you get tired, form goes. Yeah, for sure.
So you're just holding on for dear life.
So is Radix full? Is the gym fully back now? Like now we're post-COVID.
Post-COVID.
You survived COVID.
I was thinking about that just the other day. Gyms were closed at the beginning of this year still, weren't they? They had to close down again?
I feel, we did. I feel like...
it wasn't that long ago that they were forced to close still. Like it seems outrageous now, looking back.
Oh, for sure. It was outrageous from the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Okay, but yeah.
That's a whole different...
Yeah, looking back now, how outrageous was absolutely...
Well, just because like the whole narrative around it is like, well, gyms were... they weren't whatever you want to call it. What were they calling us?
Super spreader locations?
No, but like we weren't necessary.
Non-essential.
Non-essential.
Oh, non-essential.
The fact that we weren't essential, but McDonald's was essential. Like it was fine to get McDonald's. Like it's just our system's so backwards.
Oh, LCBO too. So you could go get hammered and eat McDonald's. But go to work out was probably not.
Did you see that recent testimony in the EU where some Pfizer executive she was asked if one of the vaccines was ever tested to stop transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
she said no.
Yeah, she admitted under
oath.
So,
and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So everyone who was told you're taking this to save the elderly person in your family so that you don't, the transmission stops at you or whatever the language was.
Yes.
And now it comes out that they never even tested for that. But we don't even have to.
We don't have to go there.
Let's stick with the gym. Let's stick with the gym. So
now we've been open, fully open and running all our classes.
So all the CrossFit classes are back.
Yep.
But you're also doing.
We have a sports conditioning program now as well. So we opened at a certain point I'd closed down a part of the gym and was renting it out for storage to my brother. We took that back. We put in strength equipment and then we opened a strength and conditioning program for sports. So that's running and it's doing really well.
So this is where teams will go there?
Yeah, right now it's like close to 50 football players that we train out of there.
It's a cool vibe. It's all young guys going in there. Yeah,
guys getting strong.
When I go, I never see them. So that's morning or night or something?
So you're in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
you come at football practice time when they're
Okay,
at school.
got it,
Yeah,
got
so
it.
there's a morning and 2 evening classes for them. And then
how big? Someone asked me the other day that one of the guys I played hockey with who had a CrossFit gym. Unfortunately, over COVID, he had to close it down and sell his equipment.
Yep.
And he was asking where I went. Then he was asking the size. I have no idea. What is the size of your place?
5,000 square.
Yeah, it's a nice.
Yeah, it's a good size.
You know what? Speaking of all this nutrition stuff, I actually had a last minute. Dr. Cowan's office made a change to my last minute appointment unannounced, and they just kind of let me know.
Go check your blood.
So
check
I got to
your
go.
blood.
I got to go get those.
Come back and tell us the results.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's happening in the gym now.
Yeah, that's happening, which is a cool vibe. You know, young kids lifting heavy, lots of energy, too much testosterone, all that good stuff. So yeah, that's happening. Yeah, we're just running full force. Like I'm there full time again, which is like the best feeling ever because like I was working landscaping for 2 years and trying to keep the gym running all at the same time. And, you know, we're lucky that we survived because like 2 other CrossFit gyms in Oakville have closed down over the last 6 months, which is, you know, horrible to think about, right?
Yeah.
Like these people who start CrossFit gyms are, first of all, not trying to do it to make money. They genuinely care about making a difference in people's lives. So the fact that they can't make it, you know, because of what happened, it really sucks. So we're, you know, we made it work, and now I'm back full time and full-time hours, and we're actually growing too.
Yeah, because I feel like
So
you're
it's
doing other
awesome.
stuff. Like I know you do personal training too, or
There's
multiple
personal
people
training.
do it.
Yeah.
But and it's all different kinds of people. Because I think you have some boxers still coming through. Like is John Michaels still?
Yeah, so I train 4 pro boxers now, which started out with John Michael was the first, and then kind of spread really
Where was
quickly.
his last? No, he fought 2
He-
or 3 times this year. No.
Yeah, he fought 3 times this year. He won all 3 fights. We were out in Nova
So
Scotia.
now he's 3-0 or 4-0.
He's 3-0,
3-0.
3 KOs. Yeah, last one was like in devastating fashion, which from a good opponent. His opponent was ranked top 10 in his weight class. His opponent was undefeated, and for some reason tried to really intimidate JM before the fight. So in the weigh-ins, he like pushed him, got in his face, was talking all kinds of crap. John Michael's a nice dude, so he just smiled. He said, "Just wait." Like I got nothing
He does
to
it.
say to you until we get in
His
there.
day job is like HVAC.
Yeah, he
So
does
you'll see him
HVAC.
pull up to your house somewhere in Halton or
Yeah.
Peel or something. He'll be installing your
Yeah.
furnace, but this guy's like a deadly weapon.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was like a knockout in the first 60 to 90 seconds of that fight. That guy got destroyed. So
How
now
good
he's
of a feeling? I guess he was just kind of pumped. So now,
you like the adrenaline is insane.
so what's the road for him? He's 3-0, and he's going to try in Canada to keep having pro fights. Does
Yeah,
he eventually
so-
try to get into the States?
Yeah.
Is that how that works?
So right now he's on a 5-fight deal with 3 Lions Promotions, which is a Canadian promotional company. So he has his last fight of the year, December 3rd in Nova Scotia, and then he'll fight one time more early 2023, and then he'll either re-sign a deal with them or look to go to a bigger promotion.
Because then, if everything goes well, and let's just assume he goes 5-0, then other promotions will say, okay, this guy's kind of proven himself at these other levels. Now we'll sign him and bring him over here. That's how that goes.
There's something called BoxRec, which ranks boxers in their weight class all over the world. So like with his last fight, because of how good his opponent was, and then he won by KO, he went up like 500 spots on that list. So once you become ranked once he becomes ranked like a top 10 super middleweight, then he's got way more like chips to bargain with, and then he can sign bigger deals, and that goes from making like 5 figures to 6 figures to 7 figures a fight, depending on how deep.
How do you train a boxer? Is it just like that's a mix of cardio and power?
So
not just strength,
yeah. Oh well, you ready?
or just
I can
high
get into
level,
it.
yeah.
So you have to periodize training, which means you have to go through cycles of training based on when he's going to fight. So if we're like, say we're 3 months out from a fight, then I'll focus on his strength at that time. He has more time to recover. We can go heavier. I can build his base level of strength up. from there, we can take that strength and we go into a power cycle, and I turn it into more power. We do more power plyometric exercises, and like basically teaching his body to use the strength he's built to turn into power.
So power, if I was to kind of define it or describe it, would be taking the baseline strength that your body has and turning it into explosive motion.
Speed.
Okay.
Yeah. So
strength, you build the base, then you train explosiveness,
yeah,
power.
And we turn that strength into power. And then once we're 6 weeks out, and 6 up to 8 weeks maximum, we go into what we call fight camp. And that's where we get him ready. We turn that strength power and we maintain as much as we can of it, but then we turn it into power endurance and make sure that he can, depending on how many rounds he's fighting, he can go hard 3 minutes on, 1 minute off for 6, 8. And then if you're fighting for a belt, it's 12 rounds. Throughout that time, he's constantly working on his like aerobic capacity, his ability for his heart to be able to keep him moving and recover between bouts of, explosive power, that kind of stuff. So we're always kind of working on that, but that's not like necessarily hard work. It's just more endurance work. Mm-hmm. That's what you hear about road work for boxers, and they go for long runs at certain heart rates. So he's always kind of working on that.
So long runs too, because I see him do the explosive stuff, like you have him do assault bikes and then box jumps and like skipping and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a mix of long and the short bursts.
Exactly. We have to be able to be good in those 3 minutes on, 1 minute off, because that's specific to what he's doing. But you have to think that over a 12-round fight, he's actually fighting for 24 minutes. That's a long time. So his heart has to be very efficient at being able to recover between those rounds, give him energy and oxygen.
So processing oxygen into the bloodstream.
Exactly. So especially going into what they call the championship rounds, like around 11 and 12, the person with the better capacity aerobically is going to have more energy, more output in those later rounds. So I'm always making sure he's working on that, because it's something that's super important. But then depending on how far out he is from a fight, we're working on specific things. We're trying to get him to be stronger for his weight class. And
so then it's funny, because when you were training him, and I didn't know him too well, now I know him a bit better.
Yeah.
No one else was in the gym at that kind of day and at that time of day. And I think Mike and I and Jonathan were there, and I just looked at him and I'm like, hey dude, like if you want to work out with us to kind of try to see if you can keep up with us, because we can set the tempo for you and we might be good training partners for you. Totally joking, but I was doing it straight face.
Yeah.
And he's just looking at me and I think he wanted to swing it. Like I think he was like kind of wanted to swing at me. I was like, hey,
oh man, I'm
just joking.
He's the nicest dude ever, but you
could see there's a switch.
Level of competitiveness.
Yeah, you could see.
Because like 2 camps ago, I did all the conditioning workouts with him to like push the pace, and he like every workout, it was like a battle between the two of us.
Yeah.
I could see like if I won a round, he's looking at me like, just wait till the next round.
What's the ideal? So for a boxer, I get it. Build up strength if you're far enough away from the fight, then build up the power, and then build up cardio, short burst, long, all of that. Okay, I get it. Mm-hmm. If someone is middle-aged, Canadian woman, man, they want to come to you and they just say, hey, I want my overall fitness to be better. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the typical things you hear are like, I want to lose weight and, whatever. I want to be a bit more fit. Yeah. What's the typical programming for that? Is it just a constant state of all 3 things in simultaneous action? So a bit of strength and a bit of cardio and a bit of explosive motions? Yeah,
it depends on their training age, or if they've been training at all versus coming into it brand new, versus like, I've been, lifting fairly regularly for the last 5 years, so right? Unique. Because at first everything can be adapted together. You'll gain some strength, you'll gain some conditioning, your endurance will go up, all those things. Like your body's just adapting because it's never done any of those things before. It's trying to survive. From there, like the longer you've been training, the more you kind of have to play with the variables to get a certain, get a little bit further. So if you take me, who's been training for like decades, over a decade now, decades.
Yeah, you're old.
Jeez,
yeah. I was going to correct you there, but I was actually going to let you have it, because that's very interesting that he said decades and then he said decade.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, he still wants to pretend 20, he's super young. You go for it.
It's 20 years, man. So who's been training that long? Then I have to be very more specific about what I'm trying to actually accomplish, right? Because like for me to add another 5 pounds on my snatch is going to take me like 8 to 12 months worth of work. And just focused on that.
Whereas the beginner's going to go from 0 to 100 pounds maybe overnight.
Yeah, and on top of that, they can gain, better cardiovascular fitness, all that kind of stuff. So, for somebody who's coming in, I want them to be stronger. I want them to be their cardiovascular health to be better. So, like, we can work on all those things by just having a properly structured program where you push, pull, you do body weight exercises, and we get conditioning in, and you adapt quickly. And
where do most people give up, both from a time point of view? At what mark? Is it 3 months, 4 months? Do people just say, I'm not showing up anymore? And where do people give up on the physical aspect? Is it cardio or strength? So like, do people give up more on one type of workout, cardio or strength? And then time wise, where do people tend to give up?
Yeah, I think most people who are serious about making some kind of change, if they don't buy into the lifestyle and the community that we have, then it's like a 3 to 4 months. If they get involved,
they'll disappear after 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. If they get involved and become friends with other people in the gym, make it a competitive thing for themselves.
That's why the classes are so good. No?
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of why, how much CrossFit is shit on, but the reason that I am a huge supporter of it is that without the classes, I wouldn't have gone.
No.
I liked joking. To me, the trash talk and the little talk between the motions and the complaining and the bitching about stuff.
For sure.
That keeps me coming back.
It's part of the fun.
Whereas if I was to work out by myself on that goddamn tricep machine that Ruben showed me or whatever, I wouldn't go to the gym ever.
Well, yeah, and then it comes down to like what motivates you too, right? Like, I don't know, how long can you be motivated by looking at yourself in the mirror? Eventually, you're just like,
some people very long.
I guess long. For me,
your gym doesn't have a single mirror. I don't think there's a single mirror.
No, like, have you ever tried to snatch looking in a mirror? It's like a horrible thing to do. Yeah. You're like, you can't focus at all.
I'm sure, like, however bad my mobility is when I do those kinds of motions, which is bad. Like, how bad it is. It's actually, I should correct that. Compared to what I was years ago, like I'm better.
You squat below parallel.
Yeah. I do these things, and I'm proud of them for sure. So I'm just half joking when I say this, and I'm very thankful for everything you've been able to get me to do, for sure. Yeah. And I feel good about it. But I'm sure if I looked in a mirror, how you envision yourself, because I think one time, I think you took a video of me squatting, and I was like, oh, I'm going, like, my ass is like, my ass is probably touching the ground. I'm going so low, and then you showed me the video, and you're like, you're below parallel, but I could tell it was like I was just below parallel, right?
Yeah. So I like videos for like rewatching my form, but I also like videos because sometimes in my head I'm like, oh man, that was super heavy. Like, should I go up? Yeah. And I'll look at the video. I'm like, oh, I moved that a lot faster than I thought I did while I was doing it. I should definitely go up.
That's where I noticed when you got us doing cleans, that gave me a lot of confidence on the videos, because I thought, oh man, this is pretty heavy for me. But you had taken us through like this beautiful 12-week training cycle, I think, for us to lift pretty heavy cleans. Yeah. And someone took a video of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the bar is way higher than I thought it was. Yeah. I can lift way more here. Yeah. And that's the time, and I've told you this before, that you got me to do 250-pound clean. Yeah. And to this day, it's one of my proudest moments, because to me, I felt like, okay, that was an achievement. 250 pounds off the ground to my shoulders. Dude, I felt like that was like a huge deal.
Good. Yeah.
Really and Charles Waugh did it that same day. Yeah. We both still talk about that particular day, but that was your 12-week that's where I feel like you are really, really good with people, is that if someone has a goal, you seem to be able to put programming together that will kind of easily get them there.
Yeah, for sure.
But I wanted to circle back on that point of, where do people give up on the strength? So 3 or 4 months if they don't buy into the community. Yeah. But what about cardio and strength? Do people always kind of avoid one?
Typically will tend to lean towards the strength and away from the cardio, unless they come from some type of but like marathon background or something, where they're really good at and they're used to moving for long periods of time. Then those type of people will kind of tend to move away from the strength and want to do the cardio stuff. Basically what I'm saying is people tend to move towards what their strengths are, because it's hard to do the stuff you're not good at. And that's what I love about CrossFit. And that's why I love about where I'm at right now, is that I'm better with the strength stuff, and I've spent a lot of time in that zone, and it feels good when you're like out squatting everybody, and people are like, oh, you're so strong. That feels great. what doesn't feel so good is when you like lose a Metcon to somebody and you're like, well, how did I lose that? You know, or I'm not good at doing a ton of handstand push-ups and I got to do a ton of them in this workout. And it's like an ego check where it's like, I'm not that good and I need to work on it. I think having that kind of full balance of being able to do all those things means so much more to me as I get older. So I'm like just trying to find that like where I can be the best all around I can be. And then that takes away from for me, the kind of the ego lifting. And I'm working with like a bunch of like teenage to early 20-year-old CrossFitters right now who are like want to compete and, you know, and I can see how the ego lifting gets the best of them sometimes, right? Where I like program something and
a 1 rep max.
They can't like help themselves but go heavier or do something, you know, and I'm like, just take it from my experience. This is not worth it in the long run. Like we'll get there and we'll test those things, but to like, just because everybody's watching doesn't mean you need to, you know, go up 20 pounds and lift it for a single. Like we know you can do that. So why are you trying to, who are you trying to prove it?
Yeah. One time you had the way you had programmed, I think squats, for whatever reason, I might have missed one of the cycles where we went for like a 1 rep max or something like that. But the way you had done the programming is that you were getting stronger by just never doing a 1 rep max. Like you never did the 1 rep max. Then I finally did a 1 rep max again. And for me, that was 315. Yeah. And I hit 315. I think I felt like I could have gone heavier.
Yeah.
And I hadn't done that in like, I don't know, a year.
Yeah. Cause there's a big difference when you lift for 1 rep maxes and singles, there's actually not a training adaptation that's happening. It's like a test, but your body's not adapting for heavier weights. It's just able to lift that one weight at that one time. When you do something like a 3x3, you're putting enough stress and overload on the body where it has to create an adaptation to get stronger. So doing that consistently is what's building you stronger. The 1 rep is just a test. And again, it's like a little bit of an ego thing. And nowadays with social media, it's a social media post to be like, hey, look what I did, which is why, you know, like social media is here to stay, obviously. But if you judge yourself based on everybody else's social media, good luck. Mm-hmm. It's a highlight reel of people's, you know, once in a lifetimes, you know. So teaching these kids to like just kind of focus in on what they should be focusing on and not worrying about all that fluff of whatever's happening on social media or worrying about what somebody else is doing or, you know, I feel like I'm teaching them life lessons all at the same time, you know. I saw a video there was a track meet and there was like 3 guys running to finish this like relay race. And this guy like runs past there's a guy in the lead and this guy in second place runs past the first place guy. And he kind of taunts him as he passes him, and he's like puts his hands up in the air. And there's 2 lines, and he thinks the first line is the finish line. So he stops at the first line, and he's like puts his hand up, and the other guy runs by him, and the actual finish line is the second line. And this guy ends up losing because literally he's focusing on what somebody else is doing and beating that guy and not running the race as fast as he possibly can. And so I sent it to all those kids. I'm like, don't be that guy. Yeah. You know, like that's
focus on yourself.
Focus on yourself.
What is the biggest diet change you can give advice for somebody, the average person who works out a little bit, has done some stuff, shows up to you? What's the most common thing you can say? Hey, just change this and you're going to get a substantial amount of different results. Yeah,
it's super easy. Eat more protein. So I worked with a sports nutritionist since I was like 17. I've tracked my macros forever. And when I don't track my macros and I just, you know, it's good mentally to be off of it and just kind of eat by feel, for periods of time. And then as soon as I go back to tracking and I track how much protein I eat, it's always a thing that's way lower than it should be. So if you've never tracked and you're just kind of eating, I guarantee you 99% of you are not eating enough protein.
So eat 1 gram per day of body. So like
of lean body weight. So if like say you're 200 pounds,
Yeah.
okay? But you know that like when you're fit, you're 185.
Okay.
So a 185 pound person should eat 185 grams of protein per day, split up into 4 or 5 meals.
How many grams of protein are in a chicken?
Yeah. So if you have like 6 ounces of chicken, then you're getting like 30 to 35 grams of protein.
So it's a lot of protein.
Yeah,
every day.
that's what I mean. But what protein does is it's also like it's helping you rebuild the muscle you've torn up in a workout session. But it also keeps you satisfied longer. So you'll eat less carbs, less fat because you're,
especially if you eat a fatty cut of meat, like a ribeye instead of just the leanest cuts.
For sure. And then on top of that, protein is like, out of the 3 macronutrients, protein, fat, and carbs, it's the least likely to be stored as fat. And so it also takes your body more energy to digest protein. So you're eating more of something that's not going to be stored as fat, that's going to help
Giving your
recovery.
body a workout by eating steak.
Yes, exactly.
I love this.
And then so because you're having to spend more energy, you're burning more calories just to eat the food, right? So you're less likely, you'll probably eat less calories than you're used to because you'll be fuller longer, and then you're giving your body what it needs to repair the muscle that's torn up, help you build more muscle, which again will increase your metabolism, so like that's the biggest thing that would make the biggest change. Every single person who sends me a food log doesn't eat enough protein.
And I find when I do eat a lot of protein, some people who don't know me will say, hey, Tom, you're eating too much meat. Because I feel like there's this narrative that is like, hey, you should eat more salad and less meat. But my kind of retort to that always is like, how much meat are you eating any meat? Like, are you eating any meat or eggs at all during the day? And usually it's like, oh, well, once a week I'll have a bit of red meat. I'm like, oh, once a week? Yeah. I'm trying to get this twice a day. No. Never mind what. I remember when you go to a good breakfast place, old school breakfast place, the best thing on the menu is steak and eggs.
Steak and eggs, yeah.
Like it's been there forever.
Oh, I know.
Steak and eggs.
Yeah.
But now, I think we finally are swinging back a little bit. But I feel like for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, it's been steak and eggs has been looked down upon as to like the whole grain cereal. And we were,
And your cholesterol and all that nonsense. It's nonsense is what it is. Like you're going to feel your best when you're eating enough of what you need. And then even so me, I'm eating red meat like a lot, and I eat a lot of protein, and then I got my blood work done and my iron levels were still low because of how much output.
So it's so interesting you say this. Dr. Cowan was taking my blood work and he's like, wow, Tom, your ferritin levels, which are tied to iron and stuff, are really high. I want you to I don't know if this is a DNA thing, because he's like, you have some DNA from the Balkans in Europe there. And I guess he had noticed that people from that area just might actually have that type of blood work. Yep. But he said, I want you to give blood a few times to see if we can kind of change this up.
To get it to level out better.
Yeah. And so I gave blood, I think it was like 4 times over a year or whatever. And they came right down. And then he said, okay, let's kind of just monitor it. So another 6 months go by. I'm eating all kinds of meat, ribeyes, everything. All the steaks that I love all the time. Yeah. And he tested again. He's like, you're good to go. Hasn't moved. Awesome. So he said, I think he said something along the lines of, I should bring him on. I should bring you guys actually on together.
Yeah, it would be cool.
He said, like just the modern man doesn't bleed enough.
Yeah.
So that you're just not releasing this from your body. He goes, your body just has no, in the modern day world, you're just not cutting yourself. There's no blood pouring out of your body. You're not
fighting with swords.
You're not fighting. Yeah. You're not fighting. You're not storming a castle. Yeah. You're not cutting yourself up, dodging arrows and stuff. So you just need to do that every once in a while. And for him, I think he was really happy with that. So, and I was happy too, because I'm like, okay, great, I can eat all the meat I want.
Yeah, no, and I got my blood work done with him as well. And it's not too often a doctor will sit there and be like, I need you to eat way more red meat. I'm like, yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's what he said to me too. He's like, okay, now don't give blood. He goes, you're at the level now. Don't actually give blood. Your iron levels, we don't want them to go lower.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's after eating a lot of red meat.
Yeah.
So, interesting to see how that goes. Okay, so the biggest tip you would say is most people don't eat enough protein.
Not nearly, no.
Can they get protein through protein shakes, or is that shitty protein?
No, you just have to source it properly. So like if you have a milk allergy, then you're going to want to stay away from whey, but you've used a beef protein substitute.
Which I love from you. I forget which ones you like, but I love them.
Yeah, so you can do that. If you're not, then I use a grass-fed whey protein that's uses stevia as its sweetener no artificial anything. And I actually, when I'm in hard training, I take 2 of those shakes a day so that I can, 235 grams of protein
every day.
Every day it's work, right? Well, it's more work for my wife, but the 2 shakes helps.
Rachel, I feel like Rachel loves
she
the whole,
cooks all the time, right?
Yeah.
So like she brings me lunch and she makes dinner every day. I do 2 shakes a day. I just make sure that the protein source on a shake that I'm using is super clean. And that way, like, I digest it well and it feels good for me.
Got it. Okay. So that's the biggest. And then that's the biggest and most obvious one. Is there another one that just comes to mind? Because for me, where you really helped me a lot was with your diet plan when you said, Tom, eat some oatmeal, because the level that we were training at, or I was training with you at that time, you needed some carb. And for me, I was hesitant. I was like, really? Like, I think I remember thinking to myself, there's no macronutrient content in carbs that I actually need.
Yeah.
But for a long time, I had a dry throat and I wasn't really doing well, and that helped me.
Yeah. So, carbs have become the kind of the evil macro over the years in different diet plans. The first thing I would say is anybody trying to sell you something and marketing something like that and making money off you, I would just kind of fact check it all. You know what I mean? Now, if there's like underlying health issues, then I can see reasons why you'd keep your carbohydrate levels at certain amounts. But if you're training hard and you want to perform well and you want to have energy throughout the day, then you need to eat good sources of carbohydrates. And like, just think of the name, like carbohydrate. It helps you hydrate your muscles.
I know.
Like, it helps you store water to be able to use.
So
right?
what's a good source?
So for me in the morning, it's oats and fruit. And then throughout the day, rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes. I have fruit with every meal.
Okay, so we're not talking big amounts of bread and stuff like that.
No, I'll have sourdough bread. Sourdough is easier to digest.
Do you guys make that yourself, or
no,
you find it?
Yeah, like every grocery store now, Farm Boy, Whole Foods, they'll have their own version of sourdough.
Okay.
So I'll have a sandwich. I like sandwiches.
And sourdough, why? I used to know why sourdough.
Like the fermentation process is easier on the stomach. It's like having fermented cabbages, sauerkraut, stuff like that. It's actually good on the gut.
Okay.
Helps you digest things better. And so having that instead of just like pure white flour would be just a healthier. But
you should go to my dad's house right now. He has a big barrel of sauerkraut in the garage where he puts a piece of wood with a brick on top. That's how he makes it in the garage.
Amazing.
He puts a 2x4. No, not a 2x4. Sorry, a piece of plywood on top.
Yeah.
With then a big brick on top of that, and the stench that comes from that. When my friends had to go in our garage to grab a hockey stick for road hockey, and if he was making that in there, that would chase them out of there so quickly. But he is so proud of his sauerkraut.
Yeah.
He was just actually complaining the other day, the price. I was having a talk of inflation about him because he said it was costing him, I think, $1.10 or something. I don't know if this was for each cabbage. I don't know what he was saying, but now it's $2.25.
Yeah.
So he's like, everything's getting more expensive. $2.25 for a cabbage. I'm like, Dad, inflation. Remember, I've been telling you about this, talking to you about this. He goes, everything's getting so expensive. I'm like, it's not getting more expensive. The value of your dollar is going down, Dad. So we had an argument about inflation over sauerkraut. But anyway, so more good carb.
Good carbs, complex carbs. Like donuts, cookies, that's not a carb. That's a baked good that has carbs, has fat in it. And typically if it's made in a store, then it's going to be man-made fat that is not good for you. And it's going to be just cheap flour or whatever and a lot of sugar. So that's not a carbohydrate. That's, I think, where people get confused. When I tell people like, just before the last competition I did a couple of weeks ago, I was up to 600 grams of carbs a day because of how hard I was training.
What were you training for?
I competed at the Can East Games. It was a CrossFit competition. That was my first CrossFit competition in like 7 years.
How was that fun?
Oh, dude, I had an absolute blast. Like, I had fun with it. Going into that day, I had I have 3 kids and I have twins who are like 9 months old. So like, all the crap is going to happen right before competition, always does. So the night before, the twins are up. I'm up at like 3 a.m. And I finally get back to sleep. I wake up again. I got a crazy headache. I get to the gym like, well, great, here we go. But once it started going, oh man, I forgot how much I love competing. And just like, Tyler was out in the crowd like screaming at, and I would just like rip my shirt off and throw it to him. Like I had fun with it. And I was like, I really forgot how much I enjoy this kind of just pushing myself to those limits. Now I got to the end of some of the workouts and I felt like death. And then I was like, I never want to do this again. And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, okay, let's do the next workout. But it was just, it was a fun experience. And so many people from the gym were competing. And so I was coaching and competing.
Where was it?
It was at the Paramount Fine Food Center, like the old
Hershey Center,
yeah,
Mississauga.
So right before then, I was eating 600 grams of carbs a day. And when I tell people that, they're like thinking that I'm eating like all kinds of crap, but I was eating 600 grams of really good quality source carbs every day. And I felt amazing, and I was super lean, and I was performing at a high level. And even your brain runs off of carbohydrates is the easiest way for your brain to have energy, right? So when we start to cut those down to like really small amounts, and we're trying to work out hard, and we have a stressful life, and we're trying to be at our job and think, and work at a high level, you're cutting yourself so short.
You know what? We should bring Dr. Cowan and you on together, because there was a period where I just started working out and I cut carbs completely out of my diet.
Oh, I would die.
And but for me, something interesting happened is that I went through about 2 weeks of massive brain fog where it felt like I had a hangover every day. And I think my body, when I say carb, I mean like bread. It wasn't good carb. It was just like, I was eating foot-long Subway sandwiches, thinking I was eating healthy, losing weight and that kind of stuff. So I cut out like all that stuff. And I think it was like the sugar that my brain just started like craving and fighting against me. But then after I went through that, and then I stuck with it for months, I feel like I didn't get hungry. I didn't have to snack as much. And I feel like my body was able to process fat and produce ketones in my body. Yeah. And I started measuring it, and I could see the ketones that were being circulating, I guess, in my bloodstream, but I was measuring my breath. We'll talk to him about that. However I was measuring that. Yeah. And now I feel like I have two fuel sources that I could burn sugar or carb, and I can get energy, mental and physical, from what you were saying, coconut oil and stuff, because of the ketones and things that are produced that way. Yeah. And I feel like my body's a bit better. Like I'm more adapted to kind of handle things. So it was worth going through that struggle.
Yeah. It's almost like a purge of those kind of, but again,
it was really bad.
There's a difference between like a sugar carb and like a complex carb that has fiber. And because if we're just eating sugar, then you're going to get insulin spikes, and your blood sugar is going to go up, and then it's going to crash, and you're going to feel like crap, and you're not going to be able to think properly. So if we're going through these spikes and crashes all day, it's just so horrible on your body. But if you're eating complex carbohydrates from fruit, sweet potatoes, those type of carbs, they have fiber. Your body's energy levels are sustained. They don't go up and down, because the fiber helps slow down that process and get you the energy you need. So you're just kind of humming all day long, having that energy you need to, like we live these crazy lifestyles, right? Like this morning I got up at 5:30. I go to the gym. I ride the bike for 20 minutes. I did 3 body scans, trained 2 pro boxers, immediately hopped into workout, did front squats, snatch pulls, then a Metcon of strict ring muscle ups and box jump overs. Nick convinced me to do a Tabata hollow hold with him. Then I ran out, grabbed my protein shake, trained a client, and then drove here. And now I go back to, and so you're like, go.
Drove here for 10 a.m.
Yeah.
That was all before 10 a.m.
That was all before 10 a.m. And then the rest of my day is the same thing. Like I have, I have a business meeting. I got another pro boxer I got to train. I got another client I'm going to train. We're renovating the front area of the gym. So that's all, so it's just, and then I go home and I got a 5-year-old son and twin 9-month-olds. And then we're going to run around with the dog, and you know what I mean?
So you're fit and you're funcking properly, but you need the energy. You need the right energy.
You have to have the right amount.
What's going on with Radix right now? Is there a competition coming up, or a grand opening?
So we're calling it the re-grand opening. It's actually our 7th year anniversary.
Awesome.
So it's cool. We've and we have this new program that we're kind of pushing. And then
what's the new program?
The sports conditioning program.
Oh,
I was talking about. Yeah. So Alpha Training Systems, and then we're gonna have in-house CrossFit competition, a deadlift competition, the Rockstar Real Estate sponsored Echo Bike comp, and then we have. We have our coffee bar opening up in the front.
Oh, no way. You're opening a coffee bar?
Yeah. So that's all getting renovated right now for that happening. So that's kind of all going on. And then the week before that, I'm starting another 8-week challenge. I have 8 guys. I have 2 spots left. So I'm getting ready for that, getting these guys in the best shape of their life over the 8 weeks. November 19th, we have Mitchell Hooper coming to do a strongman seminar, who's like a Canadian guy from Barrie who's been winning all these big strongman events around the world. He's going to teach us how to do all the strongman type lifting, which is like a whole different style.
And I've told you I'm in for that day. That's November 19th.
Yeah. So we have him coming. Like this guy deadlifts.
I'm going to give him some tips.
He deadlifts.
Hopefully he doesn't want to swing at me as well, like JM. I got to watch myself in your place.
Yeah, this guy, he's got to weigh like 350.
So what can this guy deadlift?
He deadlifts 970.
We just talked about not talking about like 1 rep maxes. How much can he deadlift?
Yeah, he deadlifts 975 pounds.
So a good thing to say to him would be, why can't you deadlift 1,000 yet?
Yeah.
Is that like a really, would that be like a very encouraging type of comment to make to him?
That'd be a good way to start a friendship. He's got a couple world records too. The yoke carry.
Yeah.
So they do 1,000-pound yoke carry. And he did at the UK Classic. And there's a video of him racing against another one of these strongmen. And they both pick it up.
Yeah, you sent me the video.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Runs 1,000 pounds. Like runs it.
The other guy was barely taking a
barely
step.
moving, like step by step. And he ran it in like 10 seconds. It's like a world record. And then he just broke another world record for how long he could hold these stones for in his hand. And I forget how much.
Is this guy coming on the scene out of nowhere?
So he's, these guys always look old, but he's actually pretty young. He's in his 20s. So it's kind of like, when there's like an OHL player who's been kind of doing his thing in the minors,
quietly,
and then he shows up in the NHL and he has one of those like 40 goal seasons or whatever it is. It's kind of him now. He's kind of stepped onto the big stage and he's winning events and he's setting world records. And he's Canadian from Ontario. So I just reached out to his team and we got this.
So he's coming in. I don't even know I just know I want to be there, but it's a one day
event. He's going to show us strongman deadlift technique, how to use the yoke, how to pick up the heavy Atlas stones, and how to do a log press.
Oh, so cool.
So it's going to be super fun.
Do you have a log press at your place?
So I don't, but I told him
So we're cutting down trees somewhere?
Yeah, we're getting one. So
okay. That's what I like about your gym. There's always like a new piece of equipment somewhere. Like, Dan, what the hell is that thing over in that corner?
Yeah, like we had the axle bar because the last CrossFit comp had axle bars. So as soon as I saw the workout released, I'm like immediately I called like 5 different fitness stores until I found an axle
So I
bar.
tried it because you had programmed axle bar thrusters.
Yeah.
And that thing, so if you're listening to this, it's like a barbell, but it's just thicker.
Super thick, yeah.
So when you grab it, like I couldn't believe how much harder it was on my forearms to hold that bar.
Yeah.
It was completely different.
Yeah. So
it made the workout completely horrible.
Yeah. So we've been playing around with that thing every week, and we have a yoke now. So we've been playing around with the yoke.
But I guess the thing that's most popular still is the class. I guess people who come to you will come for the classes that run in the morning and in the evening.
Yeah, we have 2 morning classes, 2 evening classes.
Yeah, cool.
It's just if you can get yourself involved in the community and,
you have a good group.
Buy into. Yeah, they're awesome people, man. And Tyler's like a one of a kind. He coaches pretty much 75-80% of the classes now, and
as far as trainer goes, he's the right personality.
You leave there, you feel better about yourself no matter how you did. Like you walk in the gym, he screams your name, and it's like not a one-time thing. It's every time you walk in the gym.
It reminds me of Cheers.
Your name. Yeah. To the point where I tell him, like, dude, if I come in at 5:30 a.m. and you're here and you scream my name, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
Cool.
But yeah, it's
and then you have the 8-week challenges going on now, but you also have them going on all the time as well, I feel. So for anyone listening, I guess, which the URL? Yeah, can you hand out Instagram URL?
Yeah, so Instagram, it's Radix Gym, RADIX Gym, at Radix Gym. That's been growing quite a bit lately, which is really cool. If you follow the stories, I post a lot of stuff that's happening in the gym, but also a lot of like informative stuff that people really like. So there's a couple doctors that I follow who I really like, and they post stuff about, you know, how much electrolytes you should get, or sodium, magnesium, and the reasons why. And I keep those posts going all day long, because I feel like I constantly want to teach people what they should be doing, and I can reach more people that way, because so many of the things that I take for granted and I just do, people have no clue. So the Instagram stories is a way I've been kind of just pushing like really good content that
at Radix
Gym. Yeah.
And you're also filming people all the time, because I guess I've been on one of your stories or something, because people will tell me, hey, I saw what you were doing at the gym today. And I'm like, how the hell did you see that?
Yeah, I just feel.
And I didn't even know you were around. I think you pop in, you take a little video, and you pop out. And I'm like,
tag somebody, maybe not. But yeah, just, you know, highlight what people are doing. That, you know, I post some of the stuff I do as well, but sometimes it can be like, well, yeah, you live in the gym, of course you should be able to do that stuff. So I post that just to let people know that I'm always working out. But then I like to post, you know, just what the regular gym people are doing all the time, and the PRs they make, and the, you know, people getting handstand walk for the first time, or their first muscle up, like, you know.
And I think I've shared this before when you've been here, but I just want to thank you, because I think what you've taught me is that I now know what it takes to keep myself in some state of fitness and feeling strong and feeling like I can do stuff. Whereas before, if I got off track with life because life was busy, and I maybe wouldn't have known what my baseline is. Like I wouldn't have known, like, okay, do a 12, you know, get back on track, start squatting every Monday, start doing some push presses, get some pull-ups going again. Let's get some running in. Let's get some assault bike in. Yeah. And I know even when I'm not at my best, because maybe I've been on vacation too long, or I've been pulled away from something, what you've taught me is very comforting, because I know what it takes to get myself to that optimal place of fitness. Yeah. And before I didn't know. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest kind of gift you've given me. I even if I'm not in my optimal state of fitness 100% of the year, which I've learned, as much as I try to tell myself I will be, life happens and I'm not, but I now know how to always get back to it. And there's just I don't know if it's confidence or comfort. I just really appreciate that you've given me. So thank you for that knowledge about my diet and about my movement. I really, really appreciate it. Yourself. And I always comment on, because Rachel really got me started down this journey as well. So both of you, I just really, really appreciate it. And the community that you've built at Radix for me is something pretty special. Like I like going in and, you know, just kind of yelling at Tyler and yelling at different people. It's cool.
It's fun. It's like, it's not like show up at the gym and you don't know anybody. It's show up at the gym and you're with friends.
Yeah. It's a community. It really is. Yeah. So at Radix Gym on Instagram. And what was the URL again?
We just changed it, actually. It's just radixgym.com.
Oh, radixgym.com. RADIX gym.com.
Yeah, super simple.
Cool. Anything else you wanted to share, Dan?
No, we have a promotional offer. You can do 3 sessions for $20.
Okay, so, come into 3 classes to check it out. Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, the first one will actually be with me. We're going to go over some stuff, and it will be the best $20 you ever spend.
So you can do like a personal training type session?
Yeah, we'll go through like 30 minutes of movement, so I can see how you move, and we call it the fit test. And that way I kind of know where you're at and what you're looking to do, and then we can get you moving in a couple classes, and I can give the coaches an idea of, you know, what you need to work on. And you'll be well on your way at that point.
And they can reach out to you through the website for that?
Yeah, you can just click in there and send us an email.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Dan, thank you. Appreciate this.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. You can find every new episode of the Your Life, Your Terms show on all the major streaming platforms. So Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. And if you'd like to get free copies of some of the books that we've put together, like these right here, or some of the reports that we've put together, like these right here, you can find all of those at www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's it for now. Until next time, your life, your terms.